It was a warm summer Friday night on May 19th, 2010, when two friends, Jenny Sobin and James Hensley, got together for a weekend of fun that took a tragic turn and left one of them dead and the other charged with second-degree murder. The Medicine Cabinet, today on The Jack Show. The Jack Show is sponsored by HSMC.
It was the spring of 2010 when my next guest's life changed forever in such a dramatic way. It could be you, it could be your child, it could be friends of the family. This can affect everyone. Please help me welcome my guest, Jenny Sobin. Hi, Jenny, how are you?
Hi, nice to meet you.
Thanks to you so much for being on the show today.
Of course.
I wanted to talk about 2010 and something that happened in your life that changed your life forever, and one of your friends, James Hensley. Tell me a little bit about when you met James.
Well, we started working together at McDonald's. You know, we were 19 when we first met, and we were working at McDonald's, just, you know, our very first out of high school job, and developed a really great friendship. We hung out almost every day, went and did camping and played in the rivers, and, you know, it was all in North Carolina. We were in our hometown, just being kids.
And what was your childhood like growing up?
Very sheltered. I never really was part of the real world, you know. I never knew what happened in the real world. So tragedy was never something that was on my mind.
And so when growing up in North Carolina, you had a few friends. Did your friends party at the time? Was that normal?
You know, it was right after high school. We smoked a little weed, drank a little beer, drank a little bit of everything, you know, liquor-wise. We just were looking for a good time, just having fun and relaxing, you know? Nothing crazy, just little types of good old-fashioned fun where we just were in the back of our house, you know, drinking and playing Guitar Hero.
And just like kids across America, it is innocent fun until it's not.
Yep.
So tell me about what led up to that weekend of getting together.
Well, my friend James and my other friend Tiffany, we were the three amigos. We did everything together. Unfortunately, Tiffany wasn't able to stay with us that evening. Me and James stayed at my house, and unfortunately, we decided to take some choices into our own hands, and we decided to drink a little bit of alcohol that we didn't, you know, it was old alcohol, you know, just had been in the back of my house for a long time, you know, in cans, you know. And then we also decided to get into my father's medicine cabinet. My dad is unfortunately disabled, so he's on all sorts of different kinds of medication. And he had some things that I've heard of and some things that I haven't heard of. I decided to trust my friend. We both knew what we could handle, and I trusted what he said that he thought he could handle. I don't know, it's just...
So your parents were out of town.
Yeah.
You guys just wanted to get high.
Yeah.
And so you went into your medicine cabinet.
Mm-hmm.
And for all of you at home that have friends on the weekends and you guys are drinking or having fun, in no way did you intend for what happened.
Yeah. The next morning, after, you know, we took the pills, and the pills that we both took, you know, he took some and I took some other kinds, you know. I don't know exactly the amount of kinds that he took, because even after we found out there was more that he had taken that I didn't even know about. So the next morning, I went to go wake my friend up, and he was already passed away.
So you're there by yourself. You and James go to sleep that night. Tell me just a little bit before we go to break about James. What was he like?
He was the typical country redneck boy, you know. He had this big green camo jacket, which I still have to this day. That's like one of the only things I still have of his. So he's just a country boy through and through. He had a Jeep, you know, and he just loved going mudding and dirt biking, and fun-loving. He loved the greenery. He loved outdoors. He loved life.
Well, he sounds like a great person. When we come back from the commercial break, we're going to talk about what happened to James that following morning. We'll be right back. When we left to commercial break, we were talking about James and what a country boy he was, how innocent he was. Tell me a couple things that you really remember about him.
He was my best friend. He was my absolute best friend. There's not a lot of memories from back in those days that I can't think of him. We would take our lunch breaks together at the same time, just because we wanted to go driving and get away from our workplace. We would have weekend trips down at this little watering hole and just stay there for hours, listening to the water, watching the sky pass us by, and sometimes building a little fire, even though we weren't technically supposed to, but, little tiny fire, little tiny ones.
So we're going to go back to that night. And you guys had taken pills out of your father's medicine cabinet because your parents were out of town.
Yeah.
You guys went to bed. Mm-hmm. And then what happened?
My other best friend, the one I was talking about before, Tiffany, she woke me up at the front door because I was sleeping on the couch in the living room. So I'd be right there if anything happened. She woke me up, and then we went together to go wake James up. And that's when we found him. He was unresponsive.
So I just want to slow down for a minute. You walk into the room, mm-hmm. and the first thing you do is?
Call out his name. We'll just call out his name, touch his shoulder. That's when we noticed when we touched him, he was cold.
What was going through your mind?
I said, no, this can't be happening. This can't be happening. I didn't know what to do. We were 20. I had never seen a dead body before. And I knew we both knew we had to call an ambulance. We had to call help. So we did. They told us to, try to resuscitate. So we got him on the ground off of the bed and tried to resuscitate him.
And at this time, your mind, as a young, all-American girl, and that's something I want all of you at home to remember, is it can happen to anyone.
Anyone.
And so here your friend is, cold and blue, and you start CPR.
Unfortunately, we couldn't continue CPR because the things that were happening when we were doing the CPR, they advised us to stop and asked us just to step out of the room until the ambulance arrived, which is what we did. They came in, took over, took him to the hospital, and that's where they pronounced him deceased.
And in that period of time from when you stepped out of that room,
Didn't know what was going on, didn't know what happened, if he was gone. I mean, we assumed.
what's happening to this young girl? You're only 20 years old. What's happening inside of her at that moment?
I'm aging. I aged probably 20 years that day.
I am so sorry, because again, it can happen to anybody, and you sharing your story today is not only remembering James, and we're going to do more when we come back, but there's a lot more to this story for all of you when we get back, and we'll be right back. We're back with my guest, Jenny, and her experience of a bad choice that changed her life forever. Jenny, we were talking a little bit about James and that morning and how horrific it was for your best friend to be lying there cold and blue, knowing that in your heart you knew he had passed on. After they had taken him to the hospital, when did his family find out? How did they find out and your parents find out?
You know, I'm not 100% sure how they found out for sure, because after they took him to the hospital, me and my friend, we went to wait till we heard from anyone, a police officer, anyone that would want to talk to us. We knew that that was coming. And sure enough, an hour or two later, they called both of our phones up, asked us to come down to the police station, and we did. And we gave our statements, but we were also very young and did not have our parents with us and did not know how to handle what the police were asking us. I ended up saying things that could not have been taken any other way than the way that I said it, but I was just trying to get the information out, just trying to tell them what happened that night.
And what did you tell the police?
I ended up saying I gave him because he was at my place. I was trying to take responsibility for the fact that my friend was gone and I was not. I was trying to just tell that we were both making decisions to take these medications, but I ended up saying something that got turned against me.
Which law enforcement has a responsibility.
Which law enforcement has a responsibility. And they took their responsibility and went with it.
So as this all-American, sweet girl who made a bad choice one night, you've already lost your best friend who you guys had a lot of love for, and then now it's being compiled by a charge of?
A couple hours later, I was arrested, and it was very tricky because at first they wanted to go for second-degree murder. And I had to do a plea down a couple months after dealing with court and everything. I had to do a plea down to involuntary manslaughter. And of course, 2 counts of possession and 2 counts of distribution.
So here you are without the intention of killing your friend, but your innocence now by one choice that I know a lot of people watching at home, we've made and maybe survived. But here you are, your life has changed, and almost the rest of your life now could be served in prison.
Yeah. That was a contingency. I could have easily gone to prison.
Well, we're so glad that you didn't, and we're going to find out why you didn't when we come back from this next commercial break. But I do want you to know something. Somebody like you, as beautiful as you are, the rest of the world needs you to know that it's not your fault. It was a lack of understanding. And one decision changed your life forever. And I know that people at home are going to watch your story and not ever open that medicine cabinet.
Yeah. Please don't.
If you could take one thing back, would you have opened that medicine cabinet?
Never. I regret that decision. I will regret that decision for the rest of my life.
And how has that been on you?
You know, it made me a very strong person, I think. But I would still take it back. I would take being a weak person to bring my friend back.
And your hurt makes people like me and the viewers at home really dig deep inside of ourselves for change. And we're so sorry that this happened. But you being here today, I know you're going to change a lot of lives because you are so sweet. You're so beautiful. There's nothing in you that had malice, but your life has changed forever.
Yes.
You're now known as a felon, is that right?
Yes, I am. And it's something that can never be expunged. It'll follow me for the rest of my life.
So for all of you at home that don't think it can happen to you or your child, please use Jenny as an example of how an all-American girl with one fateful decision one night could not only change her life, but change the life of so many people around you. I want to talk about Michelle and David when we come back. Michelle and David are the parents of James, and what they did for you is unbelievable, and I cannot wait for you all to hear it. We'll be right back. What place does Jenny have in your heart?
She's very, very special to us, very much so. And we didn't want to see anything happen to her because kids make stupid mistakes.
Yes.
And believe it or not, these are kids. They were both kids. And they made a decision, did something that they wouldn't normally do under the circumstances. And, you know, why should we hold that animosity and hold that in our heart? We don't, because we were once young. We can't forget where we came from. And we were once young and made stupid mistakes. Yeah, this mistake cost a life, but we didn't want her life to go away either.
Michelle and David Hensley, the parents of James, did something profound after the death of their son, caused by a fateful decision one night in the spring of 2010 when he lost his life because he opened a medicine cabinet and took pills. Jenny, Michelle and Dave have a really special place in your life.
Yes.
After the death of their son and your best friend. Why?
It could have gone anyway. I've heard of situations like this where the victim, the person who passed away, the parents of that victim would go after the reason why their child is gone. But his parents, even though both of them were police officers, they chose forgiveness. In fact, forgiveness wasn't even on their mind. They said there was nothing to forgive.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And yeah, did she pay a price? Absolutely. I think she paid her price.
Yeah, we're all still suffering from it. We're all still going through the emotions of it, and I'm sure that's something that she's going to go through, that we're going to go through. It's just something that's always going to be with us. We're going to be intertwined for the rest of our lives. We're going to be intertwined with Jennifer. We're glad to be there for her and with her.
They knew me. They knew who I was. They even knew their son. They knew their son had problems. Not big problems, but he had problems. We all have our demons. And they knew that his decision was his decision. They never wanted me to suffer from his decision.
Any more than you already have.
Any more than I already had.
You know, how can we educate people at home to not open the medicine cabinet?
Right.
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing, because addiction comes from every walk of life, and then mistakes come from every walk of life. And unfortunately, it all came together that night, and people need to be aware. You know, I don't know if she explained to you, we're both retired law enforcement. James's brother was a drug addict, and he got into prescription pills in high school and became a drug addict. James hated the pills because of what his brother was going through. And we missed all the signs because we were so busy working, and they were able to explain it. And, you know, so it does. It happens in every walk of life, every walk of life. It doesn't matter where you're from, what your economic status is, it can happen.
You know, so many parents out there would be so angry
Exactly.
and looking for revenge or
Exactly.
some type.
I was expecting that. I was expecting it.
Why do you think they reached out to you so much?
Because they had the love of God. They had the love of God. And they didn't want me to suffer anymore. They knew I had suffered enough. So they enveloped me in their warmth and in their kindness. Never once blamed me. They were there every single court date.
And them being there actually had an impact on the outcome of your charge.
Yes.
In what way?
The judge noticed that the parents of the victim was there, and she knew that they were there holding my hand and holding my mom when I was up at the front. And she was like, there's no malice. She knew that she had to do something because the DA, the district attorney, they were going for this. But she didn't want to see me suffer anymore, so she dismissed the charges, or well, dismissed the funds that I had to pay because of court costs and everything. Of course, I would always have the charges against me, but she didn't want me to have to suffer having to pay hundreds of thousands of dollars to the court systems. So they dismissed all of the charges that charges of money-wise. So I didn't have to deal with that on my pocket too.
So during the sentencing, what's going through your mind?
Well, when they arrested me the night of his passing, I was really terrified that night because I saw his twin brother in jail that night, and I had just seen him. So it was like seeing him alive and seeing him dead and seeing him alive and seeing him dead. It was hard. It was hard. And I don't know if he knew at that point because, you know, that it was the same day, so he didn't know that his brother was gone. I thought he would hate me too. He never hated me.
You know, she had mentioned to the producers prior to the taping, and during the taping, she said, she looked at me, she says, you know, Jack, they'd never missed a court date.
No. We wanted to be there for her, to support her, know we were in her corner. And did everything we could to help her. And the judge has known me for many, many years. And the judge, he'd never seen anything like that before in his entire life. That the quote victim's family was there to support the plaintiff or the defendant. So that was it did a lot of things for us as well, but it helped us out in the future. From that point, it helped us out a whole lot.
And I wanted to talk to you about that because she had said something, and I quoted it, and she said, I said, can you give me an idea of why you think that they were so put you in their heart? And she says, Jack, they have the love of God.
Absolutely. There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever. It put it into our hearts that we should help this young lady and not hinder her.
Closed captioning provided by
Do you remember the first time you saw them after James's passing?
Yes. It was his memorial service. I didn't know for sure if I should go because obviously, you know, everyone in the town had heard the reason why he passed. So I was talked about everywhere.
And you went.
And I went. And they just loved me. They loved me.
Do you remember the laying eyes on them and them seeing you and walking up and embracing?
You know, even it happens every single time. Every time I see them, they just start crying. Like they see their son in me, and I see their son in them, and they love me regardless.
She said that the first time she saw you after James's passing was at the memorial. Can you tell me what that embrace was like?
Yeah, all we were doing was comforting each other. We were comforting each other because we all lost them.
She says every time she sees you both, that moment reoccurs. You just start crying and start loving. So that first embrace What was that like for you?
It was everything. It was forgiveness. It was compassion. It was freedom. Because I was my worst enemy. I still beat myself up about it to this day. Not because I blame myself, but because if there was anything I could do, I would go back and change that day.
And I want you to know that I'm sure Michelle and David, James, everybody involved would want you to live out the rest of your life in such a positive way.
I know they would.
And you being on the show today and helping parents that have kids out there that might be making that decision, you could have a hand in saving their lives.
I hope I do. I hope I do, because this is not a pain that you want. It's not a pain that you want.
And I think Michelle and David are so proud of you. I think your parents are proud of you. And most of all, I think James is proud of you.
I do too.
So I really thank you very, very much. It's a very hard topic, but as an all-American girl with one of the worst decisions ever made, and then the repercussions that followed, you had mentioned it could have been a lot worse. How grateful are you to be here today?
I'm very grateful. I could have lost my life that night too. I mean, it could have gone so many ways. But I'm grateful that I can be here to get my story out there and hopefully change other people's lives.
Well, I think you have. Everybody watching at home, thank you so very much for your time. Thank you for listening.
Well, I want to thank you, because I get my therapy from telling the story. And let's not forget, Jenny has a lot to do with this. Jenny is the one that made the best out of the second chance, out of the chance that she took. She's done great and continues to do great. We are so proud of her. She continue to just keep fighting, girl. Keep going. We love her to death.